Hello, this is a note session for geometry constructions. These are your basic geometric constructions, the ones you're supposed to be able to do. In order to do the notes today, you will need your compass, you will need a straight edge, and you will need a protractor. If you do not have these with you, pause the video, go get your tools, and start it again so that you are ready to go. First off, we're going to go over some construction vocabulary. Construction marks or lines are generally ones that you've used your compass for, and these marks or lines, construction marks, construction lines, is how you show your work. So you do not erase them or clean them up, you leave them right on the paper. Congruent figures are the same size and shape. Remember, congruent symbol is an equal sign with a backwards S over it. Your straight edge is used to make lines, not measure. If they want you to measure, they're going to say use a ruler. If they say use a straight edge, you're going to use the ruler, but basically a straight piece of wood would work as well, because it's just to make lines. Okay, measuring arc. This is getting into the constructions. Your measuring arc provides 2 points of reference. So when we make a measuring arc, we're really creating points of reference that we're going to use to actually do the construction. And the last term, baseline. Baseline is a starting line for another construction. So when you're asked to draw a baseline, you're asked to draw a starting point. Okay, let's start with some basic constructions now. Copying segments. It says create a segment CD that is congruent to AB. So first thing you want to do is create a baseline. Usually you want to make it a little longer than what you're going to want. Name one corner of your baseline as C. Now we're going to use our compass to measure the distance from A to B. So put your stylus on A, that's the pokey part, and your pencil on B. Then when you have it to the correct size, lift, put your stylus on C, and make a mark on your line. This we're going to label as D. And again, don't erase that mark, that's your construction mark. All right, let's do another one. We're going to construct a line segment congruent to AB. Remember that congruent does not necessarily mean facing the same direction. So we can still draw a baseline in the horizontal position. We can still label the left side C. Take your compass, put your stylus on C, mark the distance. Oh dear, I didn't change the length, did I? Sorry. You got to remeasure here. There we are. Remeasure A to B, and then make a mark there. Much better. So that one is D. We don't need that one. All right, so we're going to now copy a figure. By the way, during this note session, if at any point you fall behind, just pause it, finish the exercise, and play it and start it up again. That's the great part about videotape lessons, is it goes at your own pace. All right, we're going to copy this figure. So we're going to start by making a baseline for the bottom edge. So again, you want to make it a little longer than you want it. So first thing we're going to do is mark off this length over here. So using your compass, line up your stylus and pencil with the length of the bottom of the figure. Lift, draw an arc, make a dot. There's your bottom side. Okay. So how do we then get this floating point up here? Okay, this is kind of a fun one. On your figure, you're going to line up the stylus with the left-hand corner, adjust your pencil to the upper left-hand corner of the figure. And here's our dot here. So put your stylus on the dot and make an arc. Make it a little bigger than you think you're going to need. Now we're going to measure from the right corner to upper left, which is a little bit bigger. So adjust, lift, go to here, make an arc. Use your straight edge and connect the dots. It should be at the same angle and it should be the same length. All right, we're going to construct this dot over here. We're going to do it the same way that we did this one. We're going to start by constructing, actually we'll do it from here. We'll start by constructing the same length as this top edge. So adjust till it fits, lift, put the stylus on the dot, make an arc. Now we're going to come down here at the bottom, readjust, so it's the same length as the right-hand side, lift, put the stylus on the dot, make an arc. Now you'll know you did a good job if when you connect the top sides and the right side, you've got a figure that has the same size and shape. So any floating corner can be constructed as an intersection between two lengths. In that one, we did those two lengths. And then when we were looking for this one, we did this length and this length. So all you need is 2 points of reference. All right, go ahead and turn the page. We're going to go on to a review construction. This is one we've already done a couple times. It takes a little more practice than the others. We are going to bisect a segment. We're going to bisect segment GH and mark the midpoint M. Hopefully this is something you can do without too much extra help. So adjust your stylus so it's more than halfway. Put it on G, make a half circle arc, then lift, put the stylus on H, make an identical half circle arc. You can almost see that. Let me try this. Oh, that's better. So now that you have two arc intersections, we're looking for a midpoint. So here's where the top arcs intersect, here's where the bottom ones are. Use your ruler, line it up, make a small mark, because we're looking for a point, not a line. We're going to mark it midpoint M. So make a dot and mark it with an M. That is the midpoint. All right, we're going to do the same thing on the other segment. It's a little longer, so put your stylus on G, a little more than halfway, make a half circle arc, lift, put the stylus on H without changing the measurement, make an identical half circle arc. Your arcs intersect top and bottom. Take your straight edge, line that up, make a little mark, turn that into a point and call it M. So that's how you construct a midpoint. Okay, now we're going to draw a perpendicular bisector. A perpendicular bisector is a line or ray that cuts a segment in half and is exactly 90 degrees. The nice thing is, construction-wise, it's the exact same operation, except you're going to draw a line instead of a point. All right, so put your stylus on G, make it more than halfway, draw a half circle, lift, put your stylus on H, draw a half circle of the identical size. Now, because this is an actual line, not a point, we are going to draw a line through the intersections of the arcs. And it is a line, so go ahead and give it some arrowheads. This line, as you can see, is perpendicular or 90 degrees, and it also bisects G and H. So we're supposed to call this line LM. You can label it anywhere you want. I'm just going to go ahead and label the intersections of the arcs LM. Okay, let's do another one. And again, if you are not able to keep up, just pause the video, finish the drawing, and keep going. So adjust so you're more than halfway. Half circle. Lift. Do not change the setting on your compass. Make another half circle. These half circles intersect at those 2 points. Line up your straight edge. Draw a line through those 2 points. Put arrowheads on it. and mark it perpendicular. That's perpendicular. By the way, if you want to mark it as a bisector, you just have to mark identical hatch marks on either side. And again, we're supposed to call it LM. So I'm just going to label it anywhere. Remember, any 2 points will work for labeling a line. And that is how you draw a perpendicular bisector. Flip the page. All right, we're going to copy an angle. This is a new construction. We haven't done this one before. All right, when you copy an angle, we're going to label it A prime. By the way, primes are used to designate which one came first and which one came second. They're both A's, so they are related, but the number of prime marks tells you that this one will come afterwards. All right, so when you do an angle, you want to start by drawing a baseline. It does not have to be in the same direction as the original angle. That's your baseline. Now, we need to construct a measuring arc. So a measuring arc has its stylus on A, and you don't want it super close in because it makes it more difficult to measure, but a measuring arc crosses both sides of the angle. That's your measuring arc. We need to make an identical measuring arc on this line. So lift, put your stylus on the end point, and draw an arc that crosses the baseline, and then make it a good half circle so it goes where you need it to go. That's your baseline. All right, so to measure the angle using your measuring arc goes from there to there. So from here, it's going to start here. We need to figure out where the side is going to cross. So place your stylus on one intersection of the measuring arc and adjust your pencil so it is equal to the second intersection on the measuring arc. I can do it this way. There we go. Once you've got that set, lift, put your stylus on this intersection, make a mark. Here's their intersection. And your construction goes from the end point through the intersection of those two arcs. And that is arc A prime. Or sorry, angle A prime. So as far as vocabulary goes, this is what we call the side of the angle. And this arc right here is a measuring arc. It's used to give us points of reference to actually do the angle we want. All right, let's do number 2. Start by making a baseline. Then we need to make a measuring arc. Again, try not to make it super tiny. It's harder to use if it is. So stylus on the vertex, draw an arc that crosses both sides. Lift, put your stylus on your new endpoint, draw a good half circle so you've got lots of room to work. So we have our measuring arcs. Now I want to see the distance between where the measuring arc touches one side and the other. So get that on your compass. Then lift, put your stylus on the intersection, and mark off how far across that is. Use your straight edge, draw a line from your endpoint through your arcs. And this is A prime. All right, we're going to actually now, we've been using our compass, we're going to actually use our protractor. And we're going to measure angles. So let me just put a piece of paper down. All right, so what you'll notice is you should have a bullseye or a center mark right here. If it's a notch, it means it's on the edge, and then you should have a measuring line here. One side of the measuring line will be 0, one side will be 180. Your tool is designed to measure angles going either direction. So if your angle starts here and goes up, you're going to use the outside marks because it starts with 0 and it goes up from there. If you have an angle with a baseline here and it goes up, you're going to use the inside marks because the inside marks start with 0. The main thing is to line it up carefully with your bullseye and your measuring line there. Okay, so let's measure this one that we made because it's pretty good sized. So you're going to want to line the bullseye up with your vertex. Then you're going to want to adjust your measuring line so it lines up perfectly with the side of the angle. So because I'm going this direction from the baseline over, I'm going to use my inside measuring. It starts at 0 and it goes all the way up to about, let's see, that would be 65 plus a mark about 66 degrees. Remember that 90 is straight up. So if you have an angle less than 90, it's got to be less than 90 degrees. You couldn't have an angle this big and have it be 120 degrees. Has to be less than 90. All right, let's do the same thing here. Line up the bullseye with your vertex. Line up your side with your measuring line. And again, I'm going from the right side up, so I'm going to use my inside marks. 0 goes up to 65. And that is how you measure angles. All right, last construction we're going to learn today. How do you bisect an angle? When you bisect an angle, the bisector is called a ray. So we're going to bisect or cut in half this angle using our compass. So first thing you want to do is make a measuring arc. So put your stylus on B and draw an arc that crosses both sides of the angle. Now remember when we did a segment bisector, you did one arc from one side, one arc from another side, and where they crossed was the midpoint. This is really similar, except you're going to be doing that pair of arcs from where the measuring arc hits the sides. So put your stylus where the measuring arc hits that side. Make sure that your pencil's more than halfway across. Draw an arc. Lift without adjusting. Put your stylus on this intersection of the measuring arc and draw another arc. They cross right there. Use your straight edge. Now you kind of have to drop your straight edge a little bit below the vertex because of the width of your pencil. If you don't, it will be off. And draw an arrowhead. So this is supposed to be bisecting ray BH. B is here. You can make H another point out here. The way you mark congruent arcs is with tick marks. So you just make a little mark here, a little circle, put a tick mark, and then make a little circle here and a tick mark, and that means that these two angles are the same measure as each other. All right, let's do another one. Number 2. We're going to bisect the angle. Start by making a measuring arc that crosses both sides of the angle. Lift. So here's where our measuring arc crosses. Then you want to make your compass go more than halfway. Now, you got to be a little bit careful because the further out you go, the flatter your X is going to be and the harder it is to be accurate. So you do still want it to be curvy. So I adjusted mine inward to make that mark a little more curvy. Now I'm going to lift, put the stylus on the other place where the measuring arc crosses, and I'm going to make another arc. So if you're a little closer in, you're going to get curvier arcs, which means their intersection point is easier to draw. Take your pencil, go from the vertex through that point. You have an angle bisector, and it's labeled BH, so put H somewhere out there. It's a ray. And then I want you to go ahead and mark that you've bisected the arc, or the angle, excuse me. All right, last one. This is a big angle. So start by making a measuring arc. Crosses both sides. So it intersects here and here. Lift. Put your stylus on one place where the measuring arc intersects. Draw an arc. Make sure your pencil's more than halfway. Lift, put the stylus on the other intersection, draw an identical arc. These two arcs cross here. Line up your straight edge. Remember to offset the vertex just slightly to accommodate for pencil width. There is your angle bisector, and let's go ahead and label these as being the same. And this is ray, BH, that does the bisecting. That's a ray. Okay, so last thing we're going to do is use our protractor to measure this angle. And I want you to measure it from both directions. We've kind of been going right and right side, so I want you to turn your paper upside down, and I want you to measure it from the left side of your protractor. So turn your paper upside down. There's the bullseye. Line the vertex up with the bullseye. Rotate until the measuring line is on top of one side of the angle. Now remember, this angle is opening this direction, so I'm going to start with 0, which means I'm going to use the outside marks. Now, wait a second. My line doesn't go through the outside marks. When that happens, all you have to do is extend your line lightly, just to give yourself a place to measure. Let's do it again. Line up the bullseye. Line up the bottom of the angle. And with my extension, I have a very exact measuring, 75, 76, 77, 78 degrees. So this whole angle is 78 degrees. Now, on your homework, when they want to give you an angle measure, but they have other markings on it, what they will do is they will draw a circle all the way across, and then they'll put this 78 degrees like right next to it, or they'll point an arrow to it. I've also seen them do a whole arc all the way across and do one of these. The thing you got to look for is it pointing to an arc that goes all the way across, or is it pointing to two pieces? If it's pointing to a piece, then it's only that small section. So half of 78 is 39. So if we were going to label this angle right here and it's too small, we might put the arrow there, 39 degrees. Or again, they might do one of these little overarching arrows. So you just have to pay attention to, is it pointing to just that piece because it's marked as a separate piece, or is it pointing to the whole thing? All right, that's it. Constructions just take practice. So practice, 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 and they will become second nature to you. Have a good afternoon.